Well, the focus is on the capital city today. Several high-profile proceedings will be unfolding there, from Kgoši Mampuru Prison to the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry, as well as the Serious Commercial Crimes Court. All are in keen focus. Newzroom Afrika is on the pulse of the day's top stories with our various reporters. Let's get straight into it right now for you. Alleged criminal kingpin Vusimuzi Cat Matlala, whose connections and influence have been in the spotlight, is set to testify before the Parliamentary Ad Hoc Committee, probing allegations of rot and political interference within the criminal justice system. The committee has moved its hearings to the Kgoši Mampuru Prison in Pretoria, where Matlala is currently awaiting trial for attempted murder. But in the 11th hour to proceedings today, his lawyers requested for Matlala's testimony to be postponed, saying prison conditions had limited their ability to consult with him. But Ad Hoc Committee Chair Soviet Lekhanyane says proceedings will go ahead as planned. Iman Rappetti joining us live now from Pretoria. It was the attempt that came in late yesterday, a defiant Ad Hoc Committee saying that this will continue no matter what. Good morning, Iman.
Good morning, Arabile, and again to our viewers. In, I think, about 15 minutes or so, we'll talk to Action SA MP Dereline James about her determination to put questions to Vusimuzi Cat Matlala and some other details as to what the Ad Hoc Committee will be pursuing in their direct line of questioning. This is the man of the moment about whom a lot has been said. So to hear from him directly is going to be a key moment in this testimony today. We heard some pushback from his lawyer. You've already referenced his complaints around prison conditions. The other complaint is that they weren't supplied with the documents in time that would guide and basically corral his testimony today. But that's going ahead despite his protestations, we understand. So we've got you covered outside as well as inside. So for a view from what our viewers can expect from those proceedings today, here is Zoleka Qodashe. Zoleka, good morning.
Good morning, Iman. While you've referenced the over 3,000 inmates that are in this correctional facility, that's the Kgoši Mampuru Correctional Facility today, and what we're expecting is that one of them will be before the Ad Hoc Committee that's probing those allegations of criminal infiltration and political interference in the criminal justice system. Now, Vusimuzi Cat Matlala has been labelled as one of the central figures in the political and rather the criminal infiltration in the justice system, which is essentially the nucleus of South Africa's constitutional democracy. And so if that fails, everything else will. And so we're expecting that we will hear from him from 11 a.m. in relation to some of the allegations that have been made, in which he has been fingered as being a central figure in, first, the disbandment of the political killings task team that essentially saw the minister, Senzo Mchunu, that's now been placed on leave of absence, issue that controversial directive on the 31st of December 2024. You remember that it was because of that particular directive that top cop in the province of KwaZulu-Natal, Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi, had an engagement with the Police Portfolio Committee in Parliament, as well as the top cop in the country, that's General Fani Masimula, as well as the head of crime intelligence, Dumisani Khumalo. All of them had that interaction and presentation in Parliament, in which they said that they wanted to engage the Parliamentary Portfolio Committee on some of the issues that they were facing, but not only that, also to highlight what they saw as a grievance in relation to the disbandment of the PKT team. But you remember that during proceedings, when Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi was before the Ad Hoc Committee on the 7th and 8th of October this year, that there was that interaction with the chair of that committee, that's the DA's MP, Ian Cameron, in relation to what they said before the Ad Hoc Committee, and rather before the Parliamentary Portfolio Committee in relation to Matlala. Let's take a listen.
Just in terms of the official record of 5 March, there was no reference to drug cartels or judicial capture or even interference. For example, the name of Cat Matlala wasn't mentioned on the 5th of March, and obviously it became central to your press briefing you did a few months later. Were they already known to you then, or did the evidence emerge later?
The more was about me bringing into this committee a player of a person outside the structure of the police. Because I'm the one that spoke about Mohozi. I'm the one who spoke about Mohozi having this easy access to crime intelligence. So when I raise things like this, I would have expected the commission to act on it, especially because I tried to reach out to the minister and I failed. The minister is on the platform. Mkhwanazi says there's a Brown Mohozi who's close to the minister. The minister says, I don't know the fellow that Mkhwana is talking about. The least should have happened is to say, oh, wait. Minister, you're saying, Mkhwana, why are you saying that this man is close to him? And the minister, why are you denying this man? Right there and there, should have been interrogated, and we get into the bottom of this.
Now, a player outside the structures of the police service is how Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi has described the alleged underworld kingpin, Vusimuzi Cat Matlala. So much so that he is alleged to be such a controversial figure or a central figure within, or an influential figure within the SAPS, that he then had an interaction or an engagement with the Deputy National Police Commissioner for Crime Detection, Shadrack Sibiya, who's now been suspended over that controversial 360 million rand tender that was awarded to his company, for which he is the sole director. That's Medicare 24. And so we expect that that will also be an issue that will be thrust to the fore before Parliament's Ad Hoc Committee. But you'll remember that Sibiya was asked this question in relation to that contract and how it was so that Vusimuzi Cat Matlala approached him in a meeting to essentially ask about or air a grievance that he had in relation to that contract. Let's take a listen.
So you meet Matlala, he explains his problem, he's accompanied by the lawyer, a problem of his contract, but the problem is not resolved. And you report it, you escalate it to the National Commissioner. Why do you think Matlala decided not to proceed directly now to the National Commissioner? Because in your and his evidence, the National Commission, there is no information that tells us that beyond being, after seeing you and being unhappy, proceeded to the main occupant of the office. And why, what is this coincidence of him only coming to complain about his own tender when you are acting?
It's a question that one can ask, but unfortunately, if he came to me when I was acting with the hope that I can sign and approve and give him permission, but because I didn't sign and give him permission, now I cannot explain why he came to me. Mine was just to pass the message to the National Commission.
Thank you, Zoleka. So that includes some of the technical aspects around our expectations today. But being outside a correctional facility such as this one also allows our viewers to understand the inner workings of things. And so that's why it's important to understand what happens behind the scenes. I just had a quick chat with Singabako Nxumalo, who is the Correctional Services spokesperson, who tells me that probably by now Cat Matlala had made a request for special clothing to be brought to him. They would check that clothing so that he is dressed in an appropriate manner when he gives his evidence today to the 11-member ad hoc committee from Parliament. Linda, in response to a question that you asked him about prison conditions a little bit earlier, Singabako Nxumalo also said, well, we're not here to make prisoners comfortable. This is in relation to complaints that Vusimuzi Cat Matlala had made with regard to his living conditions, the food he was eating, and the state of his mental health.
Absolutely, Iman, and those are some of the things that Singabako says are regular complaints, because there is no inmate that will essentially say prison is nice. We've seen it with many other prisoners who go to courts even to try and be removed from that CMEX facility because of complaints regarding their mental health, but even just the prison conditions. This is a facility, like I indicated earlier, that keeps high-profile, dangerous and risky inmates. You don't have to be sentenced to be in that facility. You can also be a remand detainee like Vusimuzi Cat Matlala. But his name is not only in the commissions, in the ad hoc committee, as well as the Madlanga Commission. In the criminal courts, Vusimuzi Cat Matlala appears with his hands cuffed as well as his legs heavily guarded because of the category that he is in. In those courts, he's appearing for attempted murder charges, an incident that the state says happened in October 2023, an attempt on the life of his then girlfriend Tebogo Tobe Jane. But there's also more charges relating to money laundering, about 120,000 rands involved in those particular allegations. The state even saying that there was an attempt to conceal the source of those funds, which was shown through an invoice, a fake invoice that was allegedly submitted to court in order again to conceal the source of those fundings. We've seen him take to the court to attempt to fight for his freedom, to get away from this maximum security facility and to get back his freedom, attempting to apply for bail. But the Alexandra Magistrates Court finding that he's in fact a flight risk. He then made his way to the High Court in Johannesburg, where he attempted to appeal the lower court's ruling. But again, that court kicked him out, saying that it's finding that, again, there are issues around him being a flight risk. But these are subsequent events that happened following and flowing from the July 6th briefing, because shortly after that, I spoke earlier about a raid that took place in this facility where Vusimuzi Cat Matlala was found with the phone. At the time, the National Commissioner of Correctional Services, Kgoši Mampuru, spoke to us, and this is what he had to say.
He's in this section because it's CMEX. He's identified as high risk, not only because of what is circulating in the news, but also because we want to reduce the propensity of him exposing us to more risks like having cell phones and contrabands. We are also ensuring that in as much as he still has to go through court proceedings, he does not find himself, having, transgressed the rules in this correctional facility.
The same Vusimuzi Cat Matlala who was found with the phone now complaining about prison conditions. But this is what the Correctional Services has to say about that.
I'm yet to hear an inmate who will say it's nice in prison. An inmate who will say, I enjoy being in prison. So I wouldn't want to dwell much on the type of allegations that are reported to have been made in that specific letter. I guess it was directed to Parliament and they will deal with it. But as Correctional Services, we conduct our business as per the Correctional Services Act.
So this is all the background that you need to prepare your ears for what you will hear at the ad hoc committee as it continues its work today. Really high value testimony we're expecting from Vusimuzi Cat Matlala.